Ooh, it's we're getting into Christmas season now.
Yes.
We're getting close, man.
Hey, brother Gavin.
Yeah.
Us black men don't celebrate Christmas.
We don't celebrate Christmas?
Excuse him for Kwanzaa.
Do we get gifts on Kwanzaa?
Hey man, come on. We gotta act like we know. There's white people listening. We gotta act like we know.
We gotta act like we know. Do you know the rapper No Name?
I saw a headline about her. I don't know.
She recently said that she doesn't want to dance for white people. So she's got 2 more dates on her concert. She's like, she's not doing any more concerts because only white people come to her shows. That's her fans. Black people don't fuck with her. So she's like, I'm not doing music anymore. Or she's taking a break from it. Because she just feels uncomfortable playing, I guess she says dancing, but playing for white people.
Right.
What do you think of that?
You trying to make money or not? I mean, I'll tell you this. I stopped going to rap concerts because there's way too many white people who feel comfortable dropping N-bombs around.
There is a lot. I as a performer, I kind of understand where she's getting to, but as a performer, I'm like, hey, you got an audience. You know what I mean?
Got an audience. Yeah, you're feeling your shit.
You can do whatever you want. It's really, I don't know, like you kind of, I don't know.
I won't be surprised there's a bunch of white dudes like, yeah, you know, like the white kids used to wear Public Enemy t-shirts.
Yeah, they're just like, fuck, that's racist.
Oh no, sure, it's gonna be that's racist. It's gonna be, yeah, man. I'm feeling.
I got into an argument with a guy on Facebook. I haven't been on Facebook or Twitter for so long. I pop in and out.
Good for you.
I think I'm just tired. I think I just need a break from everybody. Yep. And so I went on, and it was right after the whole Don Cherry thing, and the woman said that woman said something about how her experience with hockey was always white boys, and then all those white people were losing their minds. So this guy, I get into this guy's going on about how I'm like what I made a comment like how white people understand racism. It's like watching a kid in their dad's suit. And then he's like, "Well, this is he's like, you don't understand the definition of racism." And
white dude said that?
Yeah, white dude posted the definition of racism. You know what I mean? The dictionary definition.
Oh, of course, yeah. The convenient one, yeah.
And then some people jumped in, and I'm like, well, I mean, yeah, I guess you could be racist, but like, what is racism if there's no power behind it? Like, it really means nothing. It's just kind of an insult. And then he went on the whole thing explaining why white people have power. Like, he basically told me he was a white supremacist. Like,
wow.
Yeah, he's like, well, because we have a better culture than black culture. And,
man.
But he also didn't understand what race was because he was like saying how I'm like, I'm black. He's like, oh, you're from Africa? I'm like, no. He's like, well, how can you be black? I'm like, Africa's a continent. It's not a race of people. It's a continent. And he couldn't understand all that shit. And then he was trying to explain to me how, like, the idea of white privilege only exists in North America. He's like, if I went to Africa, I wouldn't deal with white privilege. I'm like, have you ever heard of apartheid?
Wow.
Or colonialism? And then he used Brazil. And I was like, well, and I brought up some articles. And then I started posting stuff about how race isn't genetics. I love white supremacists. And I made him say he was a white supremacist without saying, he's like, well, I think, so I'm like, oh, so you think you're superior. I love how these guys identify with, like, when they talk about like people like conquering nations and stuff like that, or like making these rules and shit, like say Sir Johnny McDonald, like, oh, we're genetically. First of all, race is not genetics. It's just it's a social construct. It doesn't exist. Yeah. But I also it's like these guys identify with whiteness. Like if I play basketball, then I have 3 rings like Michael Jordan. Like, it's like, that's how they see themselves. It's like, dude, you're not that white that we're talking about. You're not the white. You're not the 1%. You're not the billionaires.
There we go.
And then he called me belligerent because I argued all his points. He's like, I can't talk to you because you're being belligerent. I'm like, you're a white supremacist who told me my genetics are shit.
Dude, I think, okay. Props for staying off Facebook, because I find myself doing that every once in a while during the weekend. You'll notice a dead silence.
Yeah.
And it feels good.
Yeah, it does.
And 2, I think we need to stop wasting our time with like armchair. Like he's pointless. He's like
he's stupid. Yeah, he's dumb.
He's just he's just slowing down. It's like I just noticed this post that I have about talking about feminism, and basically people think feminists it's about, banning songs like "It's Cold Outside."
Yeah. I saw that post.
Or shit like that. But really, it's about, a fucking rapist being able to get away with raping with a fine, But what it made me think is, it's always the motherfuckers who don't understand the cause, who are loud about it, and who seem to, cause confusion, spread out misinformation, like your boy,
Yeah, because it makes sense to do that, I guess, right? No,
would it be fair?
Well, to start screaming and yelling when you don't understand what's going on, it's like they're always the loudest people.
Yes, if you're a child. Yes, if you're a child. Yes, I would agree. Yes, that would be perfect.
Yeah, you make the feminism hates. They hate one of the things I hate about YouTube is if you go on the anti-SJW YouTube, it's like they complain about fucking superheroes and comic books, and you're like, who gives a fuck?
Who gives a fuck?
You sound like you're grown men. You're my age. You sound like goddamn idiots.
Word up.
What
else am I going to complain about?
Well, this is. I know I started off complaining about Facebook, but this episode we want to touch on. We want to talk about Watchmen episode 1.
Hell yeah.
Do a bit of a review, but not really a review, but just talk about it. It's a very dense thing that's going on in this show, and I love it. I love David Lindelof stuff. He's the producer of this series on HBO. Do you know David? Have you ever watched any of his stuff?
No, I'm not familiar. No.
He did Lost.
Oh wow, okay.
I never watched Lost, but I watched The Leftovers, and this feels like The Leftovers. If it's like Lost, but it feels like a world that's fully lived in, but it's only revealed to us, and you have to kind of catch up.
Okay.
That's what
you gotta catch up. Yeah.
Well, there's things you're like, this is weird, but it's also normal.
Yeah.
The show it's created by David Lindelof. It's based off the work of Alan Moore and Dave Gibbons' Watchmen comic book. It has nothing to do with the god awful movie that came out a few years ago.
God awful movie.
Yeah, that god awful
all
movie.
raised in praise, but not anymore.
I remember seeing it, and I watched it anyway. I'll get into the movie in a bit.
Yeah.
It stars the TV show stars Regina King. It's got Jeremy Irons in it, Jean Smart, who doesn't show up in the first episode, but she's fucking brilliant. She's awesome. Her character's amazing. Louis Gossett Jr.'s in it, that. He's great. There's a lot of great people, a lot of great actors.
Hey, homie, you're not gonna forget Don motherfucking Johnson.
Yeah, Don Johnson is in it. That's right. With his crocodile in his boat. That's right, Don Johnson. Don Johnson's been in a lot of... Gene Smart and Don Johnson have been in a lot of stuff recently. Gene Smart's tearing it up, man. From Designing Women. This is the woman from Designing Women. And she's just... the character that she's playing... I'll get into it, how great the writing is in this. But, we'll get into it. So the series takes place, I guess it's because the events of the book, it's a sequel to the book, The Watchmen, and that happened in 1985. This is happening in 2019.
Correct.
And so if you read the book, did you read the book?
No. I'm nodding, pretending like I know what I'm saying. I'm following up and everything like that. Right
You're nodding on a podcast. He's an audio nod. Yeah. No, I didn't. Yeah. So in the book is very political, very dense, and it's a tale about fascism. It's Ayn Rand. What if people thought they were selected to be above everyone else? Right, so this goes back. Okay, so Alan Moore created this book. He was there was a whole bunch of characters that Steve Ditko, who created, I believe he created Spider-Man or is part of Spider-Man. I'm not sure, well, not 100%, but he's one of the original guys, right? Comic book creators. So he created a whole bunch of characters, including the Question. It's a DC character and a whole bunch of others. And DC bought the rights to them, and they were there. It was called. He had a team called the Minutemen, and so Alan Moore was working for DC, and he asked if he could or they wanted him to take these characters, and he was like, "Can I do whatever? You can do whatever you want with these characters." Okay. And they're like, "Yeah, for sure." And here's the thing about Steve Ditko. Steve Ditko is very much very right wing. He's very much a libertarian. He's all about like how people should have. If there's a group of people who deserve power because they were born into power, and they should be able to do what they want, and blah blah blah, and that philosophy and that political ideology was heavy in these characters.
Okay.
And Alan Moore knew this, so Alan Moore wanted these characters, and then DC finally was like, no, you can't use the question and stuff like that. You can't. So he created like kind of similar characters to create this. So these are all originals that Alan Moore used to mock, or not mock, but just do satirize Steve Ditko's characters. And the idea of superheroes. This is the first time this ever happened. It was very groundbreaking. It was to mock superheroes. So he created these characters.
Okay.
Well, just the idea of superheroes, the idea of a group of people who are above the law.
Okay.
Who think they are destined to be above, whatever, like to do whatever they want.
So it's so The Boys on Amazon Prime is not original. It's
no. What do you mean?
Is that The Boys? Is that what it's called? The Boys?
Yeah.
Yeah. So they had superheroes, and I thought they were making fun of the idea of superheroes. Like, what if they have a superhero had a real people problem?
Yeah, but The Boys came out like years and years after Watchmen. So there's a lot of books there's two books that changed the comic book game in the 80s, and that was The Watchmen and Frank Miller's The Dark Knight Returns. And and The Watchmen was like one of those take the comic book industry and flip it on its head. Like, let's dissect what's going on. And the Boys is kind of like a bastard child of that. Like, it's like a distant cousin of that. It's like, oh yeah, it's been done, but this is a version of that being done.
Okay. I'm pretending in the audience there's comic book connoisseurs like you.
Yeah.
Connoisseurs, okay? And then there's people like me who just nod and show on podcast and pretend like you know what's going on, but they're just here for this is cool. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't realize it's like being taught about the Matrix and learning about all the background information. So that's what.
I'm only getting into it because it's so dense, but it applies to what's going on now. It's why, like, if you read the book, like, you can enjoy The Watchmen, the show. I think the HBO show without reading the book, but there's an extra layer of understanding of, like, to understand, like, Laurie, Jean Smart's character in the show, and how to understand why she's like who she is.
Right.
You have to read the book, and you go, "Oh my God, this is such good writing!" Like, they took her to a natural conclusion.
Gotcha.
I'll explain as we go. So he was mocking the idea of, like, libertarianism. Like there's a character that, like, the white nationalist characters in this TV series, what are they called? The Fifth Regiment or the
7th Cavalry?
The 7th Cavalry, right? They're based off Rorschach. Rorschach is a character in The Watchmen who is very right wing. Like, he rambles around. He rambles around the city, like, and he has a diary and he's writing down everything, but everything is like how America is shit and how poor people are disgusting and whores. Like, he's very right wing but he's also crazy. There's another character called the Comedian who's a fascist. He goes into Vietnam with Dr. Manhattan, and he loves police and order, but he also looks at the whole thing as a joke. The entire system is a joke to him. But he's a fascist, and that's the only character that Rorschach admires.
Okay, really?
So Rorschach's he wears the Rorschach mask, the ones that you see the 7th Cavalry wearing, and he writes this journal. And so I'm going to spoil the book. I don't want to. Should I spoil the book? I shouldn't spoil the book. I won't spoil it because you haven't read it. But so he writes these journals and blah, blah, blah. But it's a very right wing kind of, it's racist. And people there's a lot of people that think he's amazing in the book, but he's not. He's a piece of shit.
Is he really?
Because he's also a hero, right? Like, he's also a hero in the book.
Dude, in the movie they made him a badass.
Right. This is the problem with the movie. Like, the movie does this thing with, like, because, like I was saying off air, they're doing the American Hero story in the show, where it's like a TV show about the Hooded Justice and the Minutemen, who are the precursors to the Watchmen. The Watchmen really never came about because they had one meeting and the comedian was like, "This is a joke." But the movie, I watched this video about it, and they're talking about like the problem with the movie is that for the book The Watchmen to work, the characters can't be like, they can't glorify the violence. You have to make them human-like. Right? Because the whole purpose of the Watchmen was like, who are these people who think they have more power than everyone else? And so what the movie did was like, look how badass that fucking kick is. Look at him jumping out of buildings. And they did all those poses, so they made it look badass. Like they deserve to, because they're like they would do stuff in the movie where someone would punch someone and they'd fly across the room. And it's like, that's not what the book's about.
Interesting. Okay.
Right? It's a group of people who decided, hey, I want to be it's like, you just imagine a whole bunch of fucking people decide, hey, we're going to take some guns. We're going to be the cops now.
Oh shit! Kind of like the Black Panthers.
Yeah, it's kind of like that.
Oh, okay. No, sorry. Okay, you mean vigilante? Actually, you know where the name Watchmen comes from?
I think it's Greek, right? Who watches the Watchmen?
Greek who watches the Watchmen?
Yeah. What were you going to say?
I don't know. I just want to establish that I read this, so I sounded a little knowledgeable on this episode. I mean, ding, 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 ding. Read a book, kids. All right. During the American Revolution, they used to have this group of what's the word? Not mercenaries, but dudes with guns, right? And they were. It was easy to. Sorry, they were as soon as if the British would come down, they were ready. Like within the minute, it was quick for them to get easy to mobilize and be able to be wherever they needed to be where they needed to be. So it's as if they were like superheroes. They were not superheroes, but essentially they were dudes with guns looking out for the British in case they came out. And the reason they got the name Watchmen is because
they watched.
No, they were quick to. It took them a minute to get ready.
Oh, okay.
Oh no, I said Watchmen. Sorry, I'm fucking up. Minuteman. Yeah. Okay. B Black, man. How embarrassing. Okay.
It's okay. Anyway,
edit that part out, right?
No, we're keeping it in. We gotta have tangents.
Yeah,
we need a dump of information and then a wild tangent. But here's the thing, B. It does relate because the original superhero team is called the Minutemen. So
yeah.
And then the second team of new heroes, younger heroes. So here's the thing about so we're getting to David Lindelof's show. And we open up, and okay, so here's the other thing that you have to understand from the book. Nixon never gets impeached. Nixon serves 5 terms.
Oh, wow. So he's a good dude in this movie.
No, he's not good.
He's not good.
He just never gets impeached. He serves 5 terms, and he wins Vietnam with the help of Dr. Manhattan. It's very right-wing, very fascist era. That's what the book's about. It's a very right-wing, where it's about a doomsday clock. We're heading towards doomsday. And everyone's armed with missiles, and they're pointing missiles at everyone. Everything's getting ramped up because of Dr. Manhattan. Dr. Manhattan shows up on the scene. He's this guy with ultimate powers, and everyone's terrified.
Correct.
I don't want to spoil the book, but you have to read the book to see how it ends to where we get to this point.
Where we get to this point,
where we are now with the TV show, because we go to the TV show, and we're at a point where everything has gone so far left. We're so far fucking left. Right? Cops need to get permission to use their guns.
Correct, yeah.
Right? There's an episode you're later on where she takes those memory pills, she takes some pills, she has to get her stomach pumped. She has to sign a permission, she has to sign a release for them to pump her stomach. We're so far left, there's a 10-minute warning about the TV show that people are going to watch. The society, black people are getting reparations. We're in just the society of it's an over. Not that I'm saying reparations shouldn't happen, but there's a giant left overcorrection from what it used to be in 1985.
Okay,
and this is where we are. Okay, so this episode starts off with a historical fact: the Tulsa, Oklahoma bombings.
Oh my God, Tulsa, 1921,
which we talked about on this podcast many, many times. I think we talked about it a few times. I've brought it up in arguments with people. Black people are lazy. And then you go, well, what about Tulsa?
There we go. Yeah,
what about banking?
Yeah.
Oh, well, I don't know about that. This is why I wanted to do this episode, because I was watching reviews of white nerds who were mad about the show and just like, I'm tired of this race grievance. And I saw a guy bring. I know. I'm tired of this woke shit. And it's like, okay, all right, stop. You can't even use the word woke anymore. It's so.
Oh, I know. I hate that.
Yeah, you can't. And so anyway, I saw this dude talk about the Tulsa riots, and he was saying one of the white racist nerds was upset because he was like, well, black people showed up with weapons. Yes, they did. Uh-huh. There was a riot between black and white people. After what? Like, it was a young man was accused of rape and locked up, and the black people showed up with weapons because they thought they were going to lynch him.
Correct. Yeah.
And then there was a big riot. And then the Klan joined in, and they were biplanes and shit, and people getting blown up.
Motherfucker, yo, they're assaulted on American soil.
Yep.
Yes. Yeah. By domestic attack on American soil on their own citizens.
Well, yeah, and to understand, Tulsa at that time was like a thriving black community. It was called Black Wall Street.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, so there was this moment in time where blacks were actually accumulating and building wealth, and that was generational wealth, because that was that would have been passed down, but the whole place got flattened.
The whole place got flattened.
Yeah.
It's interesting to think that our parents, if that place still existed, our parents might have immigrated there instead. But anyway, that's a different story.
That might have happened. That might have happened, but it's America still. America's still America.
I'm a dreamer. I'll stop. Okay.
Where there's a prison for every person. It's like China has what, 4 times the population, and America still has more people in prison than China does.
Wow.
Yeah.
Let that marinate.
Yeah, let it marinate, man. So yeah, okay. So we see it in the show. Some kid gets Will. He gets he escapes the massacre with a.
He escapes the massacre
with a baby. So then we're in modern day, right? And
pause. Does that remind you of anything?
Pardon?
Besides the second time I caught up on it. Does that remind you of anything?
What do you mean?
It kind of reminded me of Superman's beginning.
Yeah. No, actually, that's a good point. That mirrors the point, because later on, I mean, we're spoiling other episodes.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Oh, man, I'm fucking okay. Keep going.
Well, no, I mean, it's fine. The baby becomes his wife, right?
The baby becomes his wife.
Yeah, and she's a reporter. She's a reporter,
wow.
Lois Lane.
Oh, she becomes a reporter.
Yeah, don't you remember? The flashback episode. He's talking to the woman.
Oh, yeah. He picks up the baby. Yeah, and then.
The baby, the kid is Will, and the baby, Will is Angela's grandfather.
Correct.
Louis Gossett Jr.
Exactly. Yes. Okay.
And that baby is Regina King's mother.
Yes.
Who is a reporter when he first becomes a cop. She's the one that's writing the story about it.
Wait, she's not the grandmother?
Yeah, she. Okay, so we're way ahead, but you watched that episode where they did the flashback, right?
Right. Yeah.
Remember after he gets the badge and he's sitting down at dinner with that woman?
Yeah.
That's the baby.
Oh yeah. That I know. Yeah.
She's a reporter.
Okay.
Like Lois Lane.
Like Lois. Oh my God, B, wake up! This is a fucking typewriter. Yes. Okay. Yeah, I'm with you. Okay. All right. I was not high when I watched the show, I swear.
No, I thought I wasn't explaining it properly. No, I really did. I was like, well, maybe I'm not saying it properly.
Yeah. Okay. Needless to say, there's a lot of spoilers in this episode.
It's a very dense show. Yeah, I mean, let's. And that's not really a spoiler, but I mean, I guess it is a spoiler, but it's not really. If you don't want to hear it, just click off now. I'll try not to spoil anymore. So, anyways, so we're in modern times, and there's a cop who gets shot by one of the 7th Cavalry. He couldn't get his gun out because you have to get permission from this guy named Panda. Everyone, by the way, all the police are wearing masks now because there was these shows are so goddamn fucking dense. So anyway, so yeah, we're I didn't want to do a scene by scene, but I mean, here we are.
It's whatever.
Okay. So in this modern time, the cops have to wear masks because they've been hunted. They were like, there's a big pardon.
Yeah, but the thing is, when we watch it, we don't know that.
No,
we just
It's Lindelof. There's like a full world that he knows, and they're just giving us shit as we go, right? Like, there's squids that fall out of the sky.
Correct. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And if you read the graphic novel, you understand what the squids are from and what they are.
That big monster there, right? I think you're allowed to bring that up.
Yeah. That's later on in the episode, but you don't understand. They did kind of explain the monster and everything, didn't they?
Okay.
Later on,
I had to go on some YouTube explain page, YouTube video to get some background about this world. Yeah.
Okay.
That's what I do.
Well, Ozymandias, I can't pronounce his name. What's his name? He's in like a castle. Adrian Vied. I cannot pronounce his name.
Some white people's name.
Veidt. He's in a castle with a whole bunch of clones and shit, and they're doing like they're like putting on play. They put on a play about Dr. Manhattan in the castle. So he's in like some alternate universe or some place, some time shift thing. So Don Johnson's like this is the worst review I've ever done of a show. Don Johnson's like the chief of police, and he's like friends with Regina King. And they find out that one of the cops have been shot by the 7th Cavalry, and they're like, "Well, we're supposed to be peace. This wasn't supposed to be happening. What the fuck?"
Yeah.
And so he asked the cop's wife to like pretend it was a carjacking, because nobody knows who's cops in this world.
Right.
The cops are like they're the superheroes. Nobody knows who's the police in this world.
Okay. Right. To protect their identity. Yeah,
they keep their identity. Like there's a few people with like superheroes, like Sister. What's her name? Sister Nun, or what's her name?
This is the Regina King's character.
Yeah, what's her name?
I think it's Sister Nun. We'll have to find out. It is
Sister Knight.
Damn.
Sister Knight.
Yes.
Jump in at any time. There's another guy named Red Scare. There's a character named Miss the pirate. What's her name? But she's barely in it. But pirate.
Okay. I didn't notice them giving her name out. Pirate Jenny. Okay.
And then there's Looking Glass, who wears that mask.
The silver one.
The silver mask. And he does like interrogations in this thing called the pod. The world's very dense.
Yes. And brother, when you say dense, what is that? What do you mean by that?
Well, I just mean like there's a lot of things in this world that's like they really did. When they created the show, they really had an idea of what they wanted. Like, you ever
a lot of layers.
You ever watch those Hallmark Christmas movies? I watch them all the time. I love them.
Okay.
There's no dense world in that. It's just country, and it's like there's no world building. Like there's no.
Okay.
It's not lived in. You know what I mean? Like Harry Potter is a very dense world. There's like there's a whole bunch of shit. There's like a certain type of beer, and there's you know what I mean? Like this thing could exist. The amount of details.
Yes.
And this and Alan Moore's books are like that too, but this show is also like that, where it's just like there's like we could go into like how the world is and not cover doing like a review of the show.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Which is why this is the hard part of the Watchmen. It's hard to do a review for me.
Agreed. Yeah. There's a lot of background.
There's a lot of backstory, a lot of background, a lot of
yeah. And that's why I'm enjoying it. That's I like being curious about what's going on.
Yeah.
Have to do some research. Have to talk to people.
Yeah.
To get more details. Yeah. No, I love it.
Well, like Vietnam is now a state. Like it's part of the United States. in this world.
Shit!
Yeah,
And that's why she was born there. Okay.
Yeah, the Vietnam is part of the because America conquered won the war.
Okay.
And Vietnam is now a state in this world, right? Like there's a flag above their house when you see them. There's when they come home from the squids, right. and her husband is outside with their daughter. They have adopted kids, and she's outside with the kid. And there's like American flag, but it has how many stars does American flag have? 52.
51 or 52.
52, and it has they have 53 stars on the flag because Vietnam is one of the states. So yeah.
I'm with you. All right. We're back to the show?
Yeah, that was the that was the show. I was just
but the show ends with wait, hold on. First they're trying to find the cop killer. They find this one guy.
Yeah,
they ended up going to some farm later. They raid some farm.
Yeah.
And the action scenes was dope, by the way, in this one.
Yeah. It's a lot of shooting, a lot of fighting.
A lot of shooting, a lot of fighting.
There's a Nixon trailer park. Like, the white people in this is another reason why I want to do a review, because when the cop in the beginning of the show, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but the cop in the beginning of the show pulls over the white guy. I saw a guy go, I saw a review of a white dude say, that's unrealistic. Why would someone? He said it's bad writing, because why would someone pull someone over based on suspicion?
Get the fuck out!
Yeah, just based on suspicion. That's not a thing. Oh my
god, that dude's been coddled.
But that's that's.
I know, whoever wrote that, I'm sure he's been nice this month and is expecting presents from Santa this year.
Oh, he's getting a whole bunch, yeah. Everything's normal. And what political? Nothing. Don't make this political.
Yeah, anyway.
So they the 7th Cavalry's collecting watches that don't exist anymore because they caught cancer. They're collecting these watch batteries. I guess it's lithium batteries for something, but we don't know what it's for. They get away with the lithium batteries, and everyone dies, and blah blah blah. I don't know how does it end. Oh, so at the end, which is interesting.
Yes.
An old there's an old Louis Gossett Jr.'s in it, and he's like he shows up at her bakery. Her front is that she's a baker from Vietnam. She's opening a store, and Regina King's character.
Correct.
I should call her by her name. Angela is opening a bakery, and he shows up and he's like, "Yeah, can you lift 200 pouns over your head?" He's like, "I can," and he's like, "You don't have superpowers, whatever."
Yeah,
so, she, the chief of police, Don Johnson, gets a call from someone, and then he leaves. And as he's leaving,
the call was to say that, hey, the cop is back.
Yeah, the cop is there. You're right. And he drives over. He gets a flat tire. But he drives over a tread, one of those tracks that have nails in it.
Yep.
And he pulls over, and then Will is there, the grandfather, the baby, who's now an old man. He's 105 years old.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And he's in his wheelchair. And then I guess Sister Knight gets a call. And it's basically a 911. She rushes to the tree, and the chief of police is hanging from the tree.
Holy shit, that was a fucked up scene.
And yes, and her grandfather is sitting on. She doesn't know it's her grandfather. He's sitting underneath the tree.
This old man in a wheelchair, black old man in a wheelchair, sitting under the tree.
Iron Eagles, sitting under the tree.
Right.
Yeah.
Iron Eagles?
Yeah, from the movies. From the movie Iron Eagle.
Iron Eagle.
Do you remember the movie Iron Eagles? From the 80s? Officer and a Gentleman.
No. Oh, I'm thinking the one with what's that dude? That short dude's name? Highway to the.
That's Top Gun.
Zone. That's motherfucking Top Gun.
Yeah, but they made a whole bunch of like jet movies, and Iron Eagles was one of them. Yeah, they're like, oh my god! After Top Gun came out and was a hit, they're like, we need a jet movie.
So Jesus Christ, man! I appreciate your patience. Everyone's patience on this episode. Yes, Louis Gossett Jr. was in Iron
Eagles. I'm sorry, I threw that out of nowhere.
Okay, yeah. I feel this is like a deja vu for some reason.
No. We're good. We went through the episode basically. Like we went beat for beat. It was very chaotic. Like it's a hard show to go beat for beat review unless you do it the like night after. It's really good. I watched it recently again, and I love this show because I when I watched the Leftovers, the series he did before on HBO, which is it's about the what's it called when heaven calls everyone, like takes a whole bunch of people? What's that called?
The Rapture.
The Rapture.
Yeah.
So like the show starts off with the Rapture. A whole bunch of people just disappear.
Yeah.
And it's about the people left behind. And like there's elements in the show where you're like, okay, you believe the rapture happened, right? But you're also like, okay, this is normal. This what?
Yeah.
Like, is this a real world? Like, cause there's like there's an episode in 2 episodes where he dies and he goes to this hotel and he becomes an assassin. And it's like, wait a second, this is not what's happening in the show. This is weird as fuck. Like, you don't know if it's real or not, if it's dreaming or not, but it is real. And you're like, oh, I guess so. Right. It's like when the dragon showed up on Game of Thrones the first season. Remember? And you're like, oh, fuck.
Yeah.
Like the tone just shift, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It made it look like it's normal, part of but that's the world.
Exactly, because like we were like, okay, well, this is like, this is a fantasy thing, but it's not fantasy. And then there was dragons, and you're like, what the fuck?
Okay, yeah.
That's what Lindelof does good. He does that very well.
Very much so, yeah.
Yeah, and it's happening in this show. Like, there's elements of it in this show. But yeah, it's deep.
Now, here's the thing. I gotta ask you this, right?
Yeah.
I'm scared your answer's gonna be no. You're just slow. That's why. No. So, when Gavin initially introduced the topic,
yeah,
and I was just slow to follow along because I didn't get it. Like to me, I was still understanding Watchmen. I didn't have a lot of background information. I didn't get it. Like, I knew it was a dope show because, in the barbershops, people are watching it.
Are they?
They're like, no, I'm not kidding. But I mean,
well, because apparently the ratings are low. That's why I asked.
Okay, yeah. No, but the people who are watching it, they enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm wondering if it's because of the Now, the reason I'm asking to back up is because then there was this article you shared with me from the National Post. Watchmen creator Alan Moore says superhero genre remains white supremacist dreams of the master race.
Yeah, he said that in 2017 or 2015, one of those times. But Alan Moore has disdain for superheroes. So Alan Moore was talking about how he was saying in that article that basically it was an interview. And he was saying how it's sad that we live in a time where we're worshiping superheroes, and then and it's like it's more than sad. It's scary. And then he was talking about how all these creators who wouldn't stand up to these because he got ripped off by DC with the Watchmen. He was promised those characters. He was promised to have those, and they took him and was like, "Go fuck yourself." After you created this piece of work.
Okay.
So he's like all these creators that got ripped off and didn't say anything. He's like, and then he was like, they're creating these white supremacists, these ideas because that's kind of what these characters are, these fantasies of being Ubermensch or super, and they're mainly white men, right? And it's no, for sure. So, I think watching episode 6 combined with this piece finally got me to understand your appreciation for the show and why you chose to make it a topic. And it made me think, I found myself thinking about how when I was a teenager or how I was a kid, my favorite superhero was Spider-Man. Yeah.
Then Black awareness hit me. Huey P. Newton became my favorite super. I went from Spider-Man
to Huey P.
Newton, right? And it got me thinking about if black people took our history, encompassed our own history, right?
Yeah.
And decided to make our own superhero. It wouldn't be like Batman beating up a drug dealer to selling a nickel bag of weed. You know what I mean?
Yeah. or an insane person.
Or is it? You know what I mean? I mean, like, it'd be like, hey, you know, if we made our own superhero, well, hey, one thing for sure, cops would be his enemies.
Yeah. Well, like Spider-Man, cops didn't like him. Like Batman, cops didn't like him for a bit. But yes, but totally, it'd totally be like that's why Luke Cage makes sense. He's bulletproof, right?
There we go. Yeah. Exactly.
Invisibility, maybe. Yeah, that would be.
Yeah. That's what I actually appreciated about the Black Panther movie.
Yeah.
Before I saw it, oh shit, I forgot. We talked about this. We did a whole episode about it, right? Before I went to go see the movie, I was worried how they were gonna incorporate the history of black people, especially slavery, inside the movie.
Yeah. How, like, one of the things I enjoyed was like the idea of like if colonization didn't happen.
That's what I'm saying.
It was that was that was enjoyable. This is what I like about this show is like, not to jump back into the show, it's kind of
no, whatever. We're all,
this is what I like about this show is like it's taking real events, because like one of the people that inspired Will to be a superhero was this man named Bass. What was his name? He was watching a movie with that black sheriff.
Don Johnson's character.
No.
The black sheriff. Wait.
He was when he was a kid. His mom's playing the piano in Tulsa, and they're watching a movie with Bass.
The superhero at the beginning. Yes,
the guy in the hood. It was a
Bass
sheriff.
Reeves or like
Bass Reeves. He's a real person.
What do you mean, in history?
In history, he exists. He was an Oklahoma sheriff who he arrested more than 3,000 people.
Yeah, that's right. I recognize the face. I just looked him up, and yes, he's a big name from back in history.
Right, and I like how they incorporate that without like they incorporate real facts and real things.
Yes.
With like it's such a great like this is why the book is so great. It's like to connect to the show. It's like they created a universe. And it's so delicately thread through our history as in our universe. I mean, that sounds pathetic as the nerdy way to say it, but yeah, and they've taken history in a what if scenario, and they've like they don't butcher things. They just it makes sense. Like it glides seamlessly. Like there's so much stuff about like. What else I like? The other thing I like about the show is like, okay, well, we're in a world where like black and like good and bad is so gray, but it's still like we're in a world where it's so left and things are so like nanny state and so whatever. Yeah. But there's reparations and people are still mad at that, and then like white people being treated like shit apparently, or white people, or there's a meritocracy or whatever, because we don't really know. We don't really know. We just know there's poor white people, right? And we've seen like how South Africans think that there's something against white people now that there's poor white South Africans. All of a sudden, it's like, wait a second, they're against us. This shouldn't happen. There shouldn't be poor us. So like, and we're I don't know. I find it fascinating that like there's like they're taking like real world and real like issues. Like the whitewashing of history is a very interesting thing that's happening in this show. Like as you go on through the series, you'll see that there's whitewashing of history.
Okay, in the actual show, yeah. Okay, yeah.
And I find it, or like it plays out in real world. Like how many people didn't know about the Tulsa bombings until the show came out?
You know what I mean? Yo, dude, when I saw that scene, my first thought was, oh, have we reached the point where white people are ready to hear about the real story?
From a white person.
About the real history.
From a white person.
From a white person, exactly. Right. But the stories that we've always known from the background, and it's always a surprise to them.
Yeah.
Yo, dude, in one of the episodes, so funny, okay, I'll probably this. Let's promise next episode we'll do better. But this episode is just about why you should be watching the Watchmen HBO specials. This is what we're all focused on.
Yeah.
But there's a scene where okay, so the black cop, he's being initiated. He's being
he's getting a medal. Yeah,
he's given the medal, and how they had to get.
This is a later episode.
Okay, but the factual part in there is so there's black cop, and he's getting up, and he's supposed to receive a badge to say, "Hey, welcome to the force" and shit like that. And the white officer steps aside to let the black officer put the badge on him. When I saw that, Gavin, I swear, I went back into my innocence phase and said, "Wow, did that really happen?"
You know what's fucked up?
What's that?
I don't know if you know this, but that cop that gave the badge, he's a real person. He was the first black officer on the New York PD.
Wow. Holy shit, man.
Yeah. This is what I love about this show.
White allies are stepping it up, man. Holy shit. He got him, really.
But it doesn't even feel like a white ally show. Like, that's the thing. It's like, I don't want to make it like, because when you say white allies, and I'm not trying to dismiss that. I'm just like, when you say white allies, it kind of confirms what those racist white guys hate about the show when they're like, "Oh, I don't need to hear this woke shit." And I don't think it's woke shit. I think it's like factual shit.
Actual shit.
Like, I don't think like I know I just don't like using the term because of that, but it's just it's like the running theme, the idea that like there's another world that you've been hidden from.
There we go.
That there's another world that you've been hidden from. Like, there's a lot of the theme of whitewashing comes up like so much.
Okay. Yeah.
Like the last episode that just passed. We're all over the place. So who gives a fuck? So last episode, the corporation creates these pills. Lady True is a character. She'll be on later on. She creates these pills called Nostalgia. And in one of the episodes that you're on, Angela takes her grandfather's whole bottle of Nostalgia. All right, and it gets flashback. So she says in the episode, and I'm not spoiling anything, but she says in a speech, Lady True says in a speech, that I created, one of my biggest failures was creating Nostalgia. It's a pill that allows you to go back in time, remember, look at your memories. She thought that would help people correct their mistakes. But what happened was people dwelled on the past and wanted to live in the pain.
Wow, really?
Yeah, they want to live in their pain, and so they don't want to move forward. They don't want to progress.
I can see that.
And so, but that goes back to those white supremacists.
Oh shit! Okay.
Right? They want to go back in time and have what it was to be white.
The good old days, right? Yes, when you colors knew your place.
This is why when like woke and ally I don't think it's wrong. I just think like when I listen to those guys, those racist nerds talk about this show and how woke it is, it's like no, you're missing it, because it's like it's so in canon. Like for me, when I read Watchmen the book, which I love, and I'm watching this show, I'm like, oh no, it's not that. It's not what you think it is.
Let me clarify. I said woke. What I probably should have said.
You said allies.
I did say woke allies, but it's more. But you know what? No, it's even more. It's deeper than that.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of the Gary Webb of the world. Gary Webb is the reporter who broke the story on the crack epidemic.
Yeah.
How the government was flooding.
Which black people knew about.
And that's what I'm saying, exactly, which black people knew about, and that dude made it official. But what I like about it is his dedication to the truth.
Yeah.
That's what human beings, and I heard the guy who made Superman.
Yeah.
Was it Superman, or was it him? Something about he hated the Ku Klux Klan. It was less about the fact that, he hated black people.
You mean Black Panther?
No. It was more the fact it's not about loving black people why he hated the Ku Klux Klan or the hatred for black people. It was more that he hated small-mindedness.
Yeah.
Small-minded people.
Yeah.
And that shit. Like, I guess what I'm saying is my favorite human beings are people who are like fighting for the living, like Jon Snow, fighting for the truth, like Gary Webb. That dude dedicated his life to doing that. And he went out. You know, I think he went out, but people considered him crazy and shit like that, conspiracy theories. But people who. So for Watchmen, for him to bring up the Tulsa, Oklahoma bombing, incorporate that into a movie and create superheroes around that idea, I said allies, but I meant this white man using his talent, his platform to put out the truth. I
also think like I don't think the show's created. I don't think he's using the Tulsa to create the show. I think it's like based on the book and what happened in the book, and there's a shift to an over left. It's a natural story to tell, right? Because like all of a sudden there's reparations.
Yes.
No questions asked. Robert Redford is now the president. He's been the president for, I guess, 3 terms or 4 terms. He's been the president for a long time.
You said Nixon, wrong white guy. You meant Nixon.
No, Robert Redford is now the president.
Oh, Nixon died in this.
I guess, but Robert Redford in this show is the president. That's why they call them Redfordations.
Oh wow! Again, I'm picking up details here and there. Okay, right.
So Robert Redford is the president, and there's a speech, there's a video later on that explains a lot of things based on the book to now. So like so they drop these squids on the population, and everyone's terrified of these squids because of what happened, the big monster that happened before. Redford brings back reparations, and so you see this course correction, this correction for good or whatever, right? Like this correction for let's for the good of the people, let's peace. It's about peace, but we're going farther left, and I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but it's also like where cops can't get their guns out and blah blah blah, and then you have this reactionary group that's like, no, we want to go back to what shit was.
What shit was?
What shit was, where we were like racing against the doomsday clock. So the story is talking about we're heading towards something else, another clock, but it's a different kind of clock. We don't know what the clock is, but we're racing towards another clock. Because we don't know what it's going to do, but we're racing towards it. I have an idea, but I'm going to put my theories out there. Lady True's building this clock.
Okay. Yes. Yeah. That I remember.
The millennial clock or something like that. But in the book, it was a doomsday clock. We were heading closer towards world destruction.
Yes.
And we don't know what we're heading towards now, but we also know that there's a threat of the 7th Cavalry. That's for TikTok. Right. But yeah, getting back to what you're saying, I don't like. That's the thing. I don't like. I think it's great. Like I think it's like using the Tulsa thing and telling the story. But I think it's also like. I think it's. I don't like. It's so hard. Like I don't know the words I'm trying to say. Like I don't think it's like I don't want to say wokeness for the sake of wokeness. That's not what I mean. I think it's like it's a story that fits so well. Like it would be like it makes sense to tell it from the perspective from the Tulsa bombings to now.
Right.
Okay, like it fits so well.
I see. Okay.
Right? Like
it needed to be told.
I like that's why I think it's like it's an American story more than it's a black story.
For sure. Like
and it's like, okay, well, this is a side that, and the whole show and the whole thing about Watchmen is like everyone's going about their business, but there's other shit going on that they are not privy to.
Okay.
Everyone's doing secret shit and controlling the world. Everyone's or there's another world underneath, that kind of shit. Oh, right? And that's what like these black people, no one knew who the Hood of Justice was. Everyone assumed who it was, but nobody knew who it was. Right? Nobody knows what the Tulsa bombings was until the show came out. Like, what the fuck? I didn't know about that. I don't know. I think
dude, it's deep. Yeah, man. Deeper than Atlantis. Deeper than the sea. Traveled by the mantis. So, deeper than the sea floor. Traveled by the mantis. By the way, you just shone a light on when you said Redforation.
Yeah, Redforations.
Okay, so going back to episode 1, where Regina King's character is just being introduced to the show. Mm-hmm. She's talking to a class of students, and I guess her daughter's in there.
Yeah,
with the mean mugging face and everything.
No, that's a son. Her son.
What's that?
Her son.
Oh.
Yeah, he just has long hair.
Oh my God! Did you just assume his gender? I'm sorry. Okay.
Okay, you're right. You're right. I assume.
I just looked it on you.
Yeah, you that's good.
This is me just being defensive. Okay, right? Oh shit, that makes sense, man. Okay, I'm like, damn, that shit can fight. It was that. Okay. Oh man, I came out wrong. All right. Okay. My point is, she talks about how she used to be a cop.
Yeah.
And now she owns a bakery.
Yeah.
And this white kid pops out. Did you get that bakery from Redforation?
Yeah, Redforations, yeah.
I didn't get it. And her son's like, what the fuck? Beats the shit out of it. Oh, that's a beautiful scene.
Because all the black Americans, ADOS, I guess you have to, like, do a blood screening thing. They have, like, booths all over the world, all over America. And then you get your blood screen to see if you were, a descendant of... And I think there's also descendants of the Tulsa massacre, so you get reparations from that.
Right. That's amazing.
Yeah, so you get money, and so like I guess what happened was all that wealth, like they got paid money. Black people got paid money, which all of a sudden black people weren't the underclass, weren't predominantly the underclass, and now so it's kind of an even playing field, and things have changed. And so now that you go to there's always poor white people, but yes, they haven't given the illusion of whether black people are rich or not. It's not a world where it's like, oh, black people are making tons of. It's just it feels like how it is today.
Correct. Yep.
It just feels normal, but there's reparations, and white people are angry as per usual, just still the victims. I never met a group of people who are like victims and still like fucking they can turn on TV and see themselves on it anytime. Go to the government, see themselves anytime.
Don't get me started. That's a different conversation. Offline, I was separate. Okay, now I just made everyone curious. Like that.
No, you could say here.
No, just people are pissed off, driving me nuts about like the. Well, so right now there's a woman trying to figure out how she's gonna pay for a Christmas present for her kids. Meanwhile, there's a white dude who's pissed off that he can't say like that's the worst shit that happened in the world. He can't say what he wants to say when he wants to say it.
Yeah,
I mean,
the ability, the idea that you have to code switch sometimes.
Oh man,
the idea that's really what the saying the N-word is like, oh, you got to code switch. You got to code switch around black people, which like how often are you around black people?
Hey man, this is what's gonna happen, dude. Okay, what I'm getting from Watchmen.
Yeah.
It's gonna be complicated at first.
Yeah.
But everyone's gonna be praising it.
Yeah.
People other podcasters will be talking about the show, talking about, if you ain't fucking with the show, you ain't fucking with us. And shit like that. And brings it. And then so you're like part of the core audience.
Yeah.
The rest of us are gonna jump along, ask questions. Oh, that's what this means. Oh, okay. All right. And follow along. And then there's gonna be the bandwagon folks who are gonna watch it. Then they're gonna have a final episode that won't make sense, only to the book readers. And then it's gonna like Game of Thrones. This is like I could see this being another popular show like Game of Thrones.
To me, it's better than Game of Thrones right now. Like it's especially the last season of Game of Thrones, last two seasons.
Especially last season of Game of Thrones. I'm not disagreeing.
I don't know. I find it just the blending of truth and this fantasy world, and then the idea of like just like the whitewashing of black culture, black American culture, and black American history. And them telling this story like with no flinching and no like, just like that's what this shit happens, and it's like it's what makes it so good is that they tell a story where where it's like, okay, it's a fantasy idea, like okay, this superhero is blah blah blah, or this is a black thing that this is something that black people did in a superhero context, but they do it side by side with actual events that have been whitewashed or people don't really know.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like the Bass Reeves.
Yes.
Or Tulsa or the first black NYPD officer. Like they blend like you. So when you're like, oh, this is some made up bullshit. It's like no. There's some reality. Do you know what I mean? Like it's
yeah.
And that's what makes the Watchmen book good is that in the movie, and they do it in the TV series, right? When you watch the TV show within a TV show, the American, what's it called, American Hero Story, and about the Hood of Justice, and they make like when he jumps, when they show the fight scene, he's kicking and like the slow motion punching, and people are flying. And it's like that was the Watchmen movie. Was like, oh, look how cool action comic book heroes are, and the book was like, nah, they're pieces of shit. Yeah.
But it's just the scene. Okay, right, okay.
Laurie, who comes in the next episode, played by Jean Smart. The way they do her character is amazing.
In the movie, she's the mom, right?
She's not the mom.
She's not the mom.
She'd be like, you know how old she would be?
Am I confused with it? Oh shit, she's the daughter?
She's the daughter.
Oh wow. Well, it kind of makes more sense.
Her character has always hated being a superhero. She was forced to do it.
Oh right. And then she ended up finding out that
comedian was her. Yeah. She's genius because the way they're doing her character is genius. Her father's the comedian who thought the whole thing was a joke.
Correct.
Yeah. He knew what was going on. He knew the government. Yeah. He knew everything. He thought she always hated being a superhero. She was forced to be a superhero by her mother. She was she always had to train. She never had a life. And then she find out that the man that raped her mother is her father, the comedian.
Yeah.
And then she finds out what happens with the squid. And now we see that Laurie, who's taken her father's last name, Laurie Blake. And now we see her in this series, and it's like, oh, that's so brilliant. She hates superheroes. She's sarcastic. She tells jokes.
Right.
It's like, oh, you fucking don't give a fuck.
Okay.
All of this means nothing to you because you've seen everything.
Right. So all this is just a continuation for you. This is like,
well, no,
you've seen the prequel.
It is, but it isn't. It's like, it's just it's hard to explain. It's like it's its own thing. But it is like you're seeing the connections to the book and the actual conclusions of, like, for example, Laurie Blake. But you're seeing like it's a completely different story, but still like a continuation, but not like it's that's why it's so good.
That's amazing.
It's so good because it's like, oh, it's just like it's not a repeat. Because I remember before it came out, people were like, well, you don't have to do the Watchmen, or I hated the idea of the cops wearing masks, and it's like, because the only other thing that we had of the Watchmen outside of the comic book, the DC did like a prequel to the Watchmen, which was shit, and then in comic books, and then we had the Watchmen movie, which was shit. Like it wasn't like what made the Watchmen good is that it can only exist as a book. That story they can't repeat that story.
Okay,
it works in graphic novel form, and now you're looking at this story, which is connected to the universe, but it's its own story. It's its own story. It's a standalone thing, but it is connected and it has deep roots to the book. It's a very complicated piece of work.
No, for sure. Most def. I was gonna jump in with saying that if any of you are like trying to catch up like I am, go on YouTube. There's a lot of explanations.
Yeah, I see more love for the show than hate now.
Oh yeah, no, it's slowly coming up. A lot of people I respect, whose opinions I respect, are like praising this show. So, which is why I'm like, okay, all right, I need to figure this thing out, man.
Because they're dropping a lot of bombs on things. Like they're like changing. They're not even changing mythology.
but they're creating, like, they're going in the past and creating some things that you didn't know, and they're like they've changed canon without, like, where you couldn't. No one's sitting there and going, "That's bullshit. Why would you do that?" It's just like, oh, okay, like it makes sense. The way they're doing stuff is so methodical and so crafted. It's just so. The show I cannot wait to watch. It's my favorite show right now.
Oh man, okay, yeah, no. So you basically sold me on it. I don't know. Okay, like I was telling you, I was taking my time to watch every episode, and now I'm one episode behind.
The next episode is like, it's killer.
Don't say it. Yeah,
I'm not gonna say anything.
Yeah, no. Next thing I'm doing before going to bed is watching that episode, which I PVR'd legally.
Yeah, we have Crave, so I've been watching them on HBO Live. Like couldn't watch it last night because we had an ice storm and the power's out. I was so angry. Yeah.
Holy shit! Okay,
I was so mad. But I watched it this morning. The show's like, I might watch it again. It's so good. It's so good.
Fight it. Okay, no. I'm already getting ready. Oh man, on the 7th episode, you're gonna see blah blah blah.
Well, I think there's 2 or 3 episodes left.
Oh, word?
Yeah, I think so.
10 episode thing?
Yeah, and
okay.
I started watching Sopranos as well, and that I really enjoy that show. That's a great show. I had no idea how good that show was.
I can episode and review with Sopranos. Yo, I rewatched Sopranos.
Yeah, Sopranos is great.
No, I agree.
They're such pieces of shit.
Oh, eggs!
they're such like fucking weak pieces of shit.
Hey, I even read the book, The Sopranos. No, holy shit. The Gospel According to Tony Soprano, is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Stuff like that. And because it's this priest who enjoys the show and he goes deep into it and he relates Bible verses to it. But the whole concept of right and wrong and whether psychology is a solution for psychology, one of those two, is a solution for sociopaths. Yeah. Whether it could actually help. But yeah, no, Sopranos. Have you watched The Irishman?
Yeah, I did watch The Irishman. I loved it.
Okay, you did enjoy it. Yeah, I feel like there's a few elements of Sopranos in The Irishman.
Absolutely. Like the first episode of Sopranos, what I loved was like everyone loves The Godfather in the first season. They're going off on Godfather, and Godfather glorifies the mob. Godfather is like the mob in honor, and then and then someone I guess it's the priest when she's having those movie nights, and she says she's like she's like, oh, have you watched The Godfather 2? That's Tony's favorite movie. He's like, oh, have you watched Goodfellas? And then the doorbell rings and cuts it right off. They never mention Goodfellas. Because everyone's a piece of shit in Goodfellas. Yeah. Everyone stabs everyone in the back. No one's worth anything. When they steal those fur coats, dude starts killing everybody off.
Holy shit.
Fucking, man. Yeah, Scorsese movies are amazing.
Scorsese movies,
They're amazing.
But the thing is, you think, I didn't know how to word this, but you think Scorsese is like trying to advance the feminist agenda by introducing the daughter
with no lines? How many women spoke in that movie?
No. Okay, well, true. I agree. True, no lie. But it's for the first time they point out that the effect of this guy's lifestyle on his kids. Like, it's got me wondering of what's important. Like in the the spoiler alert for The Irishman. It ends with him maintaining his oath as a mob guy, but in the process, being a shitty father.
He was also like he seemed like a fucking dummy to me.
From the get-go?
Yeah, I mean, he's a great soldier, and he takes orders, he does what he's told.
He was a badass.
But he was a dummy. He was also a dummy. Like, that's a dummy.
You think he got played by his own people?
No. I don't even think he got played. I think he's just one of those, he'll do whatever. He's like, there's a point in the movie where he's like, I didn't even charge him for the hits.
I just did it for respect.
I did it for respect. Like, I think they loved his loyalty, but he knew they would have killed him. Mm-hmm. Like when he was going to Detroit, he knew that they were like, I'm not going to sit behind you.
You mean
when he went to kill Hoffa?
Okay,
we spoiled the fuck out of this one. If you haven't watched The Irishman, well, you know Hoffa's dead, right? Everybody, you must know that. That's not
I had no idea Hoffa was surrounded by a bunch of pieces of shit. That's what killed him, man.
Yeah, well, Hoffa's also a fucking idiot too.
Almost dead. Well, yeah.
Hey, I'm gonna deal with the mob, but then I'm gonna have standards.
Oh boy, what the fuck were you? Yeah.
I'm gonna talk about ratting out the mob to a mob guy.
Yeah. Hey, okay, dude, before we end this episode, I gotta ask one question, right?
Yeah.
Because the whole Watchmen series had me thinking about how if black people started making their own superheroes.
Oh yeah, you want to get into that? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. What if I asked you, I need you to design me a superhero for black people?
Who's gonna buy that comic book?
A bad dream with me, dog.
Okay,
on,
sorry.
Fucking realism and shit like that.
Black superheroes.
What superpower should he or she have?
Time travel.
Oh, holy shit! Okay.
Time travel and the ability to change one's appearance would be like, and then you can like shift things. That'd be an interesting comic book.
I got one for you. Okay,
yeah.
I got one for you. Okay, so I said, we agreed on being able to resist bullets.
Yeah.
Because, motherfucking cops. I, for one, not trust Whitey, especially the white woman. You know what I mean?
Don't trust. You have the ability not to trust white women.
And then read minds, because, motherfuckers, FBI will send the black people. It's always your own people. It's always send, a black dude to infiltrate the Black Panthers.
Okay.
So you can read minds, okay? But my last one, definitely, superpower he needs to have.
What?
The ability to control the economy.
I was saying time travel because you go back in time and you can alter events.
And you could alter.
If you had like time travel, the ability to like say you had the ability to time travel, plus you can change your appearance, you can alter events.
You can alter events.
So like you don't have to read the stock market. You can buy land, or you can like change things where people come into power that you want in power and shit like that.
Gotcha. But how's he gonna buy land?
If I'm from 2019, I can go back with $10,000. I can buy some land.
Man, the Klan's like, hey, man, that's
no, but I can change my appearance.
Oh, I missed that part. Oh, thank you, Mr. White Man. Yeah,
yeah, I can change my appearance. I can buy land. Come to here, be a billionaire. Or manipulation, the ability to manipulate people with mind control.
Oh man, you just ended racism. I mean, well, who his super villain would be?
Who?
Mighty Whitey.
Mighty Whitey. Who's a pig, half man, who wears a cop outfit.
Oh, you know what I mean?
Yeah, who wants to militarize the police. It's Tucker Carlson. It's Tucker Carlson.
Our superhero's weakness is big booty and fried chicken. I don't know. Oh,
yeah.
That's
or
racist,
pork.
Dude. Or
pork.
Yes.
Yeah, salt. He's like, would you like? He's got like a pulled pork stand. Tucker Carlson with a pulled pork stand. He's like, hey, come here, have a pulled pork sandwich. Let's talk about this white supremacy myth. Come on, here, have a pulled pork. You know, it doesn't exist. Here's a white woman for you too.
You know what I mean? Oh man, it's kryptonite.
She's got a big booty. She's got a big booty.
Exactly, a white
woman with a big booty. How's this? Will our hero get out of this predicament?
And you don't rejuvenate his powers with books.
With books.
That's where he gets his strength from.
From a black bookstore. Yeah. And shea butter. He soaks in shea butter at night. Cocoa butter on his elbows.
Okay, stop it.
Ashiness is also that'd be another villain. Ash. And he's just flaking off, and he's all ashy.
That'd be fun. Because I think if you went back in time, it's kind of dangerous. Because then he might join the Haitian Revolution. Say, hey, don't go to France, tout ça.
Yeah, but you can join the Haitian Revolution and have like a machine gun.
Oh my my god!
Like you can,
dude.
like you go back and like you have the ability to know how events play out.
Bro, every Haitian who just was listening to this podcast, just wet themselves.
Well, that's how time travel works.
Going back in time with machine guns during the Haitian Revolution. Oh,
didn't you watch Back to the Future? That's how it works. You go back in time with your sports almanac and you bet on some shit and you come back, you're a multimillionaire. You own a casino. Your name's Biff. That's how it works.
Holy shit, yeah, man.
Black superheroes.
We're getting canceled. We're poisoning our audience. With
it was in your defense. It was a very serious episode up until this point. But I mean, it's a dense TV show. There's not a lot to laugh at. Although I'll tell you what, I laughed my ass off during The Irishman. I laughed so much.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, Martin Scorsese films make me laugh so much. I laughed so hard at them.
I'm trying to remember my first laughter. The Whisper guy.
Yeah, Whispers.
No, not Whisper. The guy who keeps lying about I was just going to see him, man. I was just going to see him.
Yeah, there's so many things in that movie that makes me laugh. Like just Scorsese movies make me laugh.
Homeboy from Empire, who played who's the Chicago mob boss there?
Oh yeah, what's his name? Yeah, he was hilarious.
The white guy, you know what I mean?
Yeah, the short guy. He played. He's from Boardwalk Empire.
I love that they had him in there. You know what I mean? It's like what are you going to apologize to me? You people.
Yeah, you people. He was offended. Hey, you people.
I'm beneath you? Yeah.
There's one of the funniest scenes in Goodfellas is the scene where when they go to his mom's house. What's his name? His mom's house, and she's like, "Can I borrow the knife?" And he's like, she's explaining the painting and everything.
Yeah.
But in that scene, like they're like having a conversation, but she has the painting beside her. Off the wall. She's holding on, it's underneath the table, and then she's like, "What do you think of my painting?"
The details,
his movies are so funny. They're so funny.
Agreed.
Yeah, I laugh so hard. The Irishman made me laugh a lot. There was a lot of funny shit in it.
I agree.
Yeah.
But that ending was just wait, you've never seen, are you rewatching The Sopranos?
No, I'm watching it for the first time.
Oh, first time? Okay, all right. Okay.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of elements from The Sopranos in there. So.
Oh, is there? Yeah, you can see that. But my guess is that Sopranos got it from Scorsese.
Almost there.
I think so.
Almost there. Yeah. Was Scorsese involved with Empire? Yeah.
Was he? Boardwalk Empire or Empire, the TV show?
Boardwalk. Fuck Empire.
I've never watched Empire. Have you watched Empire?
No, I mean Boardwalk Empire.
Okay.
Yeah, no, Boardwalk. Did you watch that?
Yeah, I watched Boardwalk Empire.
Okay,
of course I watched Boardwalk. But I didn't watch it. I have never watched Empire.
Man, don't worry about it.
It's not good?
Don't worry. A while back I made an episode, and it's called Binge Watching Boardwalk Empire.
Okay.
And remember that episode of The Boondocks when Huey goes to watch 24 Hours of BET?
Yeah.
And I fucked up his brain. That's how I felt.
with Empire?
After I binge watched pieces of Empire, I'm like, oh my god, this shit made me an idiot.
It does that.
It hurt my brain.
All right, this is a weird review, but we did it.
We did it.
Yeah, we did it.
Are we committing to doing an episode review 2 and?
Well, let's see what happens. Let's take our time with this because doing this, I realized, wow, this is really hard.
It was a dense. No, it's definitely dense.
Yeah.
Here's the thing: people don't know is we were talking before this episode, and he was giving me and Gavin was giving me details about the books that I missed and shit. So no, I get it. I think that's why it's like the ratings aren't great, but it's like the people that are watching it love it, but the ratings aren't great. I think it's like. I think people haven't. I don't know. I don't know what people expect from it. I think people don't know. They think it might be a superhero thing. I'm not sure why people aren't watching it. It's just I know. Like I'm trying to tell my wife you should watch it. It's great. She doesn't give a fuck. Like I'll confess, it took me a while.
Yeah.
It's not that I didn't get to the show. I think Regina King sold it to me. Her being in there.
Yeah.
Right? But it's more like. looking for reasons why should I continue watching this show.
Yeah.
And it was just because there's so many details or there's a lot of things that I was missing, not getting it. It's only now, once I finally got to 6, I'm like, The Wire took some time for me to get into it.
Yeah.
And so, I'm saying, I guess some folks out in the generation of Netflix, some folks don't have that kind of patience. It's like, you need to make sense to me now.
You don't think The Wire would survive if it came out now? Like the slow pace that it is?
The slow pace that it is, I think it'd be a challenge, yes.
Oh, okay.
I got into The Wire, to be honest with you, right? Like, I was slow in catching on to it. It's only when I jumped to season 4 when it came out. All my friends were talking about this show called The Wire, so I jumped to season 4 while watching season 1.
Oh.
And then, so 4, by the time I'm watching episode 1, I'm like binge watching everything to catch up. How did we get to this point?
Yeah.
So it made it more entertaining that way.
It's because it's very slow. Like The Wire doesn't even go up for a while.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's very, but that show is like just that fucking that.
It was a genius.
So, yeah, that's a show. That's a TV show, man. That's how you do it.
Yeah.
These white men in their TV shows know how to do it. I'll give them that.
So give it time, man.
Yeah.
What's his name? God damn it, the guy from Black Panthers there from
Ryan Coogler.
Ryan Coogler, man. Give him time, man. I know he's got some shit up.
He's a great director. I realized he was a great director during Rocky. I haven't seen a lot of his other stuff, but the Rocky movie, the first one, Creed. When he did that fight scene in the boxing, it was like, wow, that's really well shot. Yeah.
Yo, dude, we're all over the place here. You wanna?
Yeah, we're way off. Let's end on that. Okay.